evening, and welcome to this week's Black Mental Health is Black Health. I'm your host, Ms. B, the Black Couch Therapist, and I have two amazing educators here with me today. We like to start the school year off, talking about education. It's been a while since they've been on, so I invited my resident experts on education back, and we'll be looking at changes in Texas and just what's going on right now. But what's going on in Texas is going on, other places as well. So we always start off with some deep breathing before we introduce our guests. So let's get started. This breathing helps you clear your mind, get away the cares of the day, and helps you focus, something you can do any time of the day. So let's breathe in, 2, 3, 4, out, 2, 3, 4. In, 2, 3, 4. Out, 2, 3, 4. One more, bigger. In, 2, 3, 4. Out, 2, 3, 4. Gives you a chance to have that woosah at the end of the day, just to kind of relax and get things together. So, we have our two wonderful guests, and I'll let them introduce themselves the way they appear on my screen. So first, I see Nykki. And guest, I didn't remind you, but you get to tell us something cool about yourself, who you are, what you do, and something cool about yourself. So, Nykki?
Okay. Hi, my name is Nykki W Arowoshola. I'm an LPC in the state of Texas. I am a mental health, behavioral health therapist in a school. And something that's cool about myself is I love to garden. And this year I have grown cucumbers and tomatoes and peppers and cantaloupe and figs and just a whole bunch of other things. So that's what's cool about me.
And she does have an amazing garden, I have to admit. So whenever I see her in person, I'm like, bring me something at the garden. Whatever, just bring me something. So yes. Kanetra.
Hello, everyone. My name is Kanetra Cooper. I am an educator. I taught in the classroom for about 10 years, 10, 11 years. I've taught third grade math and science, and I've taught over in Dubai, which is also my cool thing, first grade, for 3 years. And I've taught in Arlington Independent School District, science and social studies for 6th grade. I am now a curriculum writer for Arlington Independent School District. I do help support 3rd through 12th for social studies. And the cool thing is I lived in Dubai for 3 years. Myself and my 2 daughters went over there, stayed for 3 years, and we got to travel to over 20 different countries and counting. And so the cool thing about me is I do love to travel, and I love my kids.
Awesome. Well, thank you both. We're going to dive right in because there is so much going on in the state of Texas with education. And not all good. I won't say all bad, but not all good for sure. So, change is change. And I wanted to do that. One of the things I'll start with is their new cell phone policies. I know last year some districts had the phones in a pouch. Didn't really work because I work with teenagers who told me how they got around those things. And then they had fake phones, or, they went and bought put the fake phone in it, but how they could beat the pouch. Now there are ways to lock it. It appeared you're locking it in front of, the person that's making sure you lock it, but it really wasn't. But there are new cell phone policies. What are Kanetra, what is your district doing with cell phones now? What is your policy?
So actually TEA, which is the State Department, has passed a law that there are no cell phones during instructional hours. That's from the start of the first bell to start the first class to the last bell to dismiss for the day. And so different districts are adopting different policies in regards to how they are going to manage it. But basically, our plan is called Away for the Day, which means that those electronic devices need to be powered off and they are to remain off. They cannot be stored in your pocket or anywhere on your body. So it's either you just might as well leave it in your vehicle or leave it at home. A lot of campuses don't utilize lockers anymore. So you can't really say leave it in your locker. And so students may try to like put it in their backpacks or something of that sort, but that is the way that our district is handling it, and it's away for the day. As far as the other devices such as smartwatches, anything that's connected to the phone will not operate if the phone is powered off. So this is the reason why they're asking that the phone is powered off and then it's put away for the day. And so there are different ways and different offenses based on that. We may talk about it a little bit later, but that's what our district has adopted, is away for the day.
Away for the day. What about you, Nykki?
Our policy is similar from the start of the day to the end of the day. Students are allowed to have it in their pockets and in their backpack, but they have to be powered off. If they are seen or heard, then they will be removed from the student and the parent can come and pick it up at the end of the day. They haven't really talked about if it's persistent, if the parents have to keep coming to the school. They haven't discussed any rules around that, but it is consistent with what she said. There are no devices, no iPads, no tablets, no Switch, no Nintendo Switch, no anything along that line. Now, people are like, well, what's the exception? If you, like, say, for instance, we have a type 1 diabetes student, then that student is able to, with her doctor's documentation and the nurse's documentation given to the students, that particular student will have a pass allowing them to be exempt. But it's teaching her, the responsibility, and it can only be used at that time. So the medical exemption is there. There are going to be some individuals who are going to be pushing back to say, well, my kids need headphones, or my kid needs to have music, it's in their 504 plan. And so those will be dealt with on an individual basis. But we're talking about things like noise canceling, headphones, even going back to using the Walkman with the old earpods. If you need some music, here's a Walkman. Or what was those things with I don't remember. iPods, yeah, iPods, where you can play your music. You're gonna have to go through and get some old tech. I even talked about the disc man, going back to the disc, if that is what you need, and that is your accommodation / modification or what have you, then those will be looked at on an individual basis.
Let me ask you this, though. What about, aren't they using computers?
Have Chromebooks?
Yes, and with Chromebooks, can't they still have access to talking?
Okay, so with the Chromebooks, we use headphones.
In terms of contacting each other, you know how there are different apps that you can use. And I'm just being devil's advocate, so they say. But I'm thinking it through, though. So, and it just came to me. I've got a Chromebook. What's to stop me from circumventing it and still communicating?
So I can kind of piggyback on that. So yes, that is possible. However, one of the things that we want to keep in mind is that if it is a school issue Chromebook, then that information can be proctored and it can be monitored and it can be traced. And so, yes, there are certain platforms like Canvas where if a teacher loads their course in there, there is a messaging feature on Canvas, but that is all tracked. And so the district has a little bit more control over being able to proctor what is being stated and being able to pull that up. And I dealt with it in the classroom where students would go in. They even started a Google sheet and they shared it with everybody. And that's how they talked on the Google form. And then they would go in and try to delete the Google document. But IT can pull that Google document up because it was created on your
Mm.
platform that was created by the school that's to connect to your ID. And so it is very well traceable. That
That's
is another, I'm glad you brought that up because that's something else that a parent said, well, my kid may need to reach out to me in XXYZ. I had a parent say, yeah, I just told my kid to email me from their computer. Just email me what it is that you have to say. And so, again, it just kind of reins in the control and the
mhm.
access that we as a district has to actually be able to follow what's going on. And students know that it's not private. I will say that Nikki mentioned it a minute ago. We do have our first, second, third, and fourth offenses set up for our district. So the first time that a student is caught, the student's phone is confiscated. They can retrieve it at the end of the day. On the second offense, it will be confiscated. There will be a conference. In all of the infractions, there will always be a conference with the parent. But on the second offense, the parent has to retrieve the phone. On the third offense, they will receive in school suspension and there will be a confiscation of the device. Parent has to retrieve it at the end of the day. And then on the fourth offense, the student can be placed into an alternative school for um, whatever amount of days seems appropriate based on the infraction. And parents will have to retrieve the device at the end of the school. And on that fourth offense, the student could lose privileges of any type of possession of any personal devices on campus.
Mm. Thank you. That is good to know. And that's why I just wanted to bring that up. I mean, I think it is going to take away a distraction. And before we leave this whole cell phone thing, I'm thinking about just anxiety in children, because they feel like I gotta have my phone. If I don't have my phone in my hand, and it's real. They feel like, oh my gosh, I know adults who feel that way. It's like, oh, I left my phone. I gotta turn back around. I can't be without my phone. What do you guys think about that? Just Nikki, you're the counselor. What do you see with anxiety?
I see I see it going two directions. One is the anxiety, the fear of missing out. What's going on? What is everybody doing? What are they saying? I see that side, but I also see the other side where the kids are getting together and planning on when they're going to fight. I see, and so that in itself is anxiety because you have kids who are anxious about safety and violence at school and
Mhm.
stuff. And anxiety is real. It's that persistent worry. It's that persistent fear. So people are like, oh, anxiety is not real, but worry. If you just use the word worry, consistently worrying, then as an adult, you should see that you worry about everything. And that sometimes that worry can become overwhelming. And so kids are worried about fitting in. Kids are worried about how they look. Kids are worried about so many things. And so they have that anxiety. And so I think that overall, in due time, the anxiety will decrease. But I also have to say that with parents have to parents set this tone for anxiety. If they're anxious about, oh, I can't reach my child. I really like how you said, Kanetra, about how the parents say, oh, you just email me. Wow, that's a really good idea because it's not private, and so you can see what they're emailing. But the parent, I like that idea. But the parent is able to be contacted in the event. But the other part of that is that kids are contacting their parents and inciting, I don't want to say
Mhm.
riots, but inciting problems at the school.
Mhm.
Where I remember one year, two girls got into a fight, and one girl called her mom, and they stuck the mom through the back. This is high school. They stuck the mom through the back door, and the mom came through the back door, bypassed security, jumped on the girl, and that just brought a whole new set of problems.
Mhm.
If you hadn't had the phone, you wouldn't have been able to call your mom, and your mom wouldn't have known when to go to the door at the exact time to be let in. Those type of things and stuff. So it's just so much dealing with the anxiety and dealing with the repercussions of even having a phone in a classroom when you're teaching. Um, Teachers are unable to teach
because they're
because
on the
the
phone.
kids are
Mhm.
talking or texting or not paying attention. So the kids should be able to have more attention in class now and not worried about who texts them.
And I would like to speak from the anxiety of not only the students, but the parents, but also from the admin and the teachers. That is a new responsibility that now a teacher is required to follow through with. A lot of times, so I mean, in the beginning technology was great. Like, there are different ways that you can utilize devices in the classroom to help support the learning, to integrate technology. But I think because that is not the primary reason why our students are pulling out their phones, that it leans us to move away from that. And so there is the anxiety of, now I need to enforce this, and it's going to be up to the individual teacher. Am I going to really follow through with this? I do feel, as Nykki stated, it is a tremendous gain for our teachers. It is a tremendous gain for the attention span of our students. Um, we know that with technology, things have improved with AI and all of these different platforms where students don't need to think anymore. And so, from stepping back and looking at it from that perspective, even I, as an adult, like, oh, I can't really figure out what this is, or I'm trying to figure it out. Oh, I'll just put it in, chat, or I'll put it in one of the AI platforms. And so it's really hard to measure what a student knows because they have it available to them. And then, and I'm sure we'll talk about this at some point, when you get to those standardized testing where you don't have that resource available to you, and then you find out what a kid really knows. And so I think that's also an anxiety where a lot of our students have become dependent upon. I'll just take a picture of the problem and it's going to spit it all out for me, and I'm doing well. And all of a sudden I don't have that. Like, I actually have to study. I actually have to, like, pay attention. And the teacher is like, okay, now there's nothing to distract them. I really need to make sure that I'm creating those engaging lessons, that I'm communicating with my students, that I'm allowing them to do those things. So I think that also can create anxiety from just a teacher perspective and parent perspective. And so I think it's all about training and showing our students how to properly use those things, teaching them how to think. And I think that's what's missing in education today. Our kids don't know how to problem solve. They don't know how to think for themselves. And cell phones and technology is definitely getting in the way of that.
And that is a bigger issue. I want to jump to testing. I'm looking at the time and it's quickly going. So I want to jump into, you mentioned testing. Are there some changes? I know we hear in the news they want to get rid of the STAR test, which they should, but their motives might not be right. But what are your ladies? Tell me about testing. What's going on?
I'll let Ms. Cooper do that since she's curriculum.
Okay.
So I am a firm believer that you do need to be able to measure students' growth. There needs to be something in place that shows that a student is progressing, a student is staying stagnant, or that a student is even falling behind. And when I say falling behind, that's just not a struggling student, but we can have very, very intelligent students, like our GT students, who fall behind because they're not producing the growth that they're accustomed to. So from my understanding, there is a lot of talk about removing the STAR test. And how many different tests have they had over the decades, right? Talk, test, STAR. There has to be some way to measure growth. I do feel that there should be some type of pre-assessment going into a school year for a student to see where that student is. And then I believe that the exact same type of assessment should be administered at the end of the year. With that being said, instead of saying you didn't make it to the top of the mountain, but your top of the mountain is different from the student next to you. And I think that's what we are missing with our students. It's just like, how can you ask for a fish to climb a tree? You have to make sure that you set up the environment. So with the testing situation, there's been a lot of talk about it. There's already things in place where a parent can advocate that their child does not participate in the standardized testing. But if they remove STAR, I don't know that that's really what they're deciding. They want to shorten it and not make it as long. But then I think about it from being in the classroom. So no matter what the state of Texas says, a student needs to know X amount of standards for this particular content area, for this particular grade level. Well, there's about I'll just say 12 standards. Let's just say 12 standards, and that's just for one unit. Well, if you tell me like now, instead of me having 50 questions on a test, I'm only going to have 20, but you don't tell me exactly which standards, it just creates more anxiety for the teacher because the one thing that they think may be a big hitter and they may spend more time, working with their students on, and then there's no questions on the test. So I think there's a sweet balance that needs to happen. But if we can just get around to just teaching the whole child and just really taking that into consideration around the testing and measuring growth, not a certain marker, but just did I grow? How much did I grow? Did I not grow? Did I stay stagnant? I think that would be so much more beneficial for us in our education system.
I totally agree with the pre and post test, because then this is what I did. Take the pre-test, teach, and this is what I did. And when you think about a coursework, when you take a final exam at the end of your class, that's really what it should be. And why not do it as a measure? I do think that is a logical way to handle it. But logic and public education don't always go together with the decision makers. Anything on testing before because I want us to get in one or two more topics. Nykki, is there anything you'd like to say about testing? If not, I'm going to jump into you and ask you about, I know there's some changes dealing with how kids are expelled, dealing with homeless kids. What are some of the new laws? Let's be real, kids, will get expelled. So what are some things around that right now?
So one of the new laws with the McKinney-Vento, children who were classified as homeless were not suspended. Well, now with the new law, students who are homeless can be suspended. And so the reasoning for that is that students learn to game the system. Oh, I can't be suspended. I can do what I want to do. There are no real consequences to that. And I was able to witness that firsthand last year. Another thing is with expulsion, students who were expelled previously were either expelled to JJAP or expelled to boot camp or expelled to home, basically. And now,
so tell the audience what JJAEP is. Everyone doesn't know that.
Juvenile Justice Alternative Education Program. I just made that up. I just made that up. But
before you go on, the reason I want to say that they were actually already tracked into the juvenile justice system, thus putting them in the pipeline to prison system. Let's not negate that, because now you are actually, your school is the juvenile justice system.
Yes.
Don't worry. I want to make sure everyone understands.
And boot camp is a program similar to JJAP, but you're not in prison, so to speak. You go in the morning, you're dropped off, and you go through that process, and then you get to go home in the evening. So now expulsion can be virtual, and so that is something that might be beneficial. Like how, and so we asked, what would that look like, and they're like, just like COVID. So
just like what?
COVID, during COVID, where the kids were able to receive their lessons online and stuff. So that is one of the things. It also had, you talked about discretionary and mandatory type of incidents. There is now where there's no limit on how many days a kid can go to DAP, but every 10 days, it must be reviewed. So that is something that is significant. I also want to throw this in there. The rules have been changed for CPS reporting. We used to have 48 hours to report a CPS case. Now you have 24 hours to report it, and that's very important. But what they added to that was not there is that now superintendents have to report to TEA into the system the incident as well. Because what was happening is that there were incidences that were happening on campuses, and principals were like, oh, well, we're not going to report it. We're not going to tell anybody. We're just going to let it pass. And so now it talks about sexual involvement, any type of incident has to be reported by the superintendent. So it doesn't just stay on the campus now.
Mhm.
It has to go through, and the superintendent will input that into a system, and then it will be tracked. So that's very important. And so it used to be, oh, let me think about it. Let me pray about it. I don't know if I should report that. Let me ask some more questions. Now it's better to go ahead and report it. It's 24 hours and let it be what it be. So that's something else as well.
I wanted to go back to that being expelled at home, and it was likened to COVID. And everybody was there. However, studies show that children didn't do well under COVID educationally. So I'm already being expelled. So, I've got some issues, and now I'm going to be left at home. And during COVID, at least many parents were home. A lot of them, couldn't handle it, but at least there was expected to some accountability. So my middle school child has now been expelled and is expected to stay home while I go to work and do school online. Is that my understanding of what this new law says?
That's basically what it looks like. But if you look at, so you got to look at, why are you expelled? You don't just get expelled for simple things. You get expelled a lot of times because you've been involved with the law. There's been something that is egregious, and you're getting expelled for that. So a lot of times you're already connected into the, you're going to be in the system. And so what has happened is that I've seen is that if you don't go into boot camp or into JJAP, I've seen kids just simply drop out. If they're not involved with the law, but they've been expelled, there was nothing there for them anyway. So at least now you'll have the virtual.
And I'll just chime in on this. I just think that that's so prevalent that we need to restore. There should be restorative practices. So again, sending them home, we are relieving ourselves of the responsibilities and duties, but we're also depriving that individual child of any type of growth. And so I just really hope and pray that we can move more to restorative practices when it comes to discipline and behavioral. Because that's the thing, you send a kid home after, let's just say, having a fight, they come back. Did you teach them how they could have managed that better? Did you teach them what conflict resolution is? Like, what did the kid learn other than, oh, I'm gonna get in a fight every day because I want to be at home every day? So I just really hope that we get that message. I will say that there is a district that they have cubicles set up in a closed off room, and the student stays in that cubicle, and it is like prison, but they are still required to be at a place that's not their home. They're required to do their schoolwork with proctored individuals around. So that would be my take on that. Is we just really need to move to a more restorative and to really counsel kids through those things.
Right. So the kid is already expelled and we're just going to send them to computer school. I agree. They're not learning the coping skills they need. And I believe that schools should be more holistic anyway. It's not just reading, writing, arithmetic, as they used to say. It is the restorative practices. It is coping skills. We have gotten away from a lot of that.
Social emotional learning.
Yes. We go through waves with that, and it's been called different things. And that was big about a year or two ago. You're seeing it's kind of diminishing again. It's not the push across the state is not as big. Guess what, ladies? I looked at the clock. We're out of time. There is so much more we could talk about, but this hopefully gives parents, neighbors, friends of children a chance to think about, and maybe you on your own dig deeper. In the remaining time, I'll give you each 30 seconds. One final comment. Nykki, go.
Parents, grandparents, aunts, uncles, I encourage you to set a routine for your child. in the morning and in the afternoon, which will decrease a lot of anxiety and help
That's
them
it.
prepare.
I said 30 seconds. We're over time. Kanetra, go.
I would just say that this is a beautiful love triangle between the child, the family as a whole, and the educational system. And so we all should be working together to help build our children up.
I love it. Well, I am Miss B, and I'm the Black Couch Therapist. I'm here to help you become a better you, and we always want to end with a challenge. The challenge is this. Um, Take care of those children around you, whether you're a parent or not. Be a part of the education system. Our children need all of us. They need you as parents. They need friends, neighbors, church members, everybody. So join us next week. We'll be back, and I will see you. And always vote, vote, vote. Be an educated voter, especially here in Texas. We will see you next week.